Hello and welcome, I'm Stormo, and this is Mushihimesama, and I've wanted to talk about this game for a long time, because I love Mushihimesama. This game has just come to PC, and it's a shooting game from Cave, who are the masters of the bullet hell shooter, and I'll get straight into it because there's no messing around here. If the aspect ratio looks funny, it's because this game doesn't appear to work correctly in full screen at the moment. And because of the way I have to record this video, it's going to look a bit may look a bit compressed and stretched. I love that they've restored the full extent of the jam error message, or not error message, copyright notice, which was quite infamously at the start of a lot of Cave games in the late 90s, and they've sort of decided to keep that here. Okay, so this is Mushihimesama. Now, the Steam package, which is what we're looking at here today, has a bunch of different modes, but I thought I'd start by looking at the original game. As it was in the arcades and on the PlayStation 2. I actually have the PlayStation 2 version, the limited edition version with the figure, which I believe is now worth several $1 billion on eBay. So, what is Mushihimesama? It is a shooting game, as you can probably tell by the weird screen ratio. It's designed by Cave, and it has kick-ass music, which you can probably just hear in the background right now, and it has different modes. And I'm going to talk about the modes, the way this game works with them. So we'll select the mode. We'll go W power because I prefer W. So I've selected original mode. Now, this isn't the mode I would normally play Mushihimesama in, but it's the mode we're going to play in today because or the mode I'm going to play in for this brief run, because I want to go through all the modes. So original mode Mushihimesama isn't the bullet hell shooting experience you might expect. It's intended basically, I suppose, as an introductory mode for people new to sort of bullet hell, but more specifically, it plays a lot more like a shooter, like say a Psycho game like Strikers 1945 or Gunbird or things like that, where the bullets are much more directed at you, so you've got to be a little bit smarter about avoiding them. The downside to this is it does have a much simpler scoring system, and so scores tend not to get too high as we find our way through here. As you can no doubt tell, visually this game looks fantastic. It came out in the early 2000s, I can't remember the exact year, but it was early 2000s, and it ran on, I think this was the game, it either ran on Taito Type X arcade hardware, or, yeah, no it did, it ran on Taito Type X arcade hardware, which is basically a sort of early 2000s gaming PC, running Windows XP and sort of locked down so it could just be an arcade game. And it was one of a couple of Cave titles that ended up on that hardware, before they shifted over to their own custom hardware that was much cheaper to produce and develop for, I believe. So yeah, this was one of the Type X Cave games. Cave have a number of different hardware types. There was the Cave Atlas hardware of the late 90s. There was the Type X hardware. There was they used a thing called PGM system for a little while, which is the hardware that Dodonpachi 2 and Dodonpachi Daioju and Ketsui also ran on PGM system. So there was that hardware that they used in the early 2000s, and then there was this Type X hardware, which was Mushihimesama. I think Escaluda was also a Type X game, maybe Escaluda 2 as well. I can't remember Mushihimesama Futari, which is the sequel to this, was. But after that, they moved on for games like Death Smiles and what did they release after Death Smiles? The later Dodonpachi games, Dodonpachi Resurrection and Dodonpachi Seidaioju, and Akai Katana, of course, which is their horizontally scrolling game from about that period. So yeah, oops, I should have collected all those eggs. But, okay, so that's the gist of it, and like I said, I'm playing in original mode, which isn't the most exciting mode, because you don't really get to see all the bullet patterns, and you can see I'm having a pretty easy time. Should point out, not the best shooter player in the world. If you're expecting, like, super play quality play from this video, you're watching the wrong video. I'm not that good. So I'm just going to play how I normally play, which is, like, kind of trying to make my way as far as I can. As I said, original mode has an odd scoring system. It's basically based on collecting all the collectibles rather than any complex scoring system. I will get to Maniac mode in a moment. In fact, what I might do is I might just end this run right now, and we'll head off to Maniac mode. Yeah, I know I was doing okay, but I don't care. I want to show the game. So we'll go Maniac mode, because this is the mode you're probably most intended to play the game in. This is basically, even though original mode is called original mode, this mode is basically the original mode, if that makes sense. So, a couple of things to note here. You'll notice when I shoot, I get a counter in the top left side of the screen. And that counter is a bonus. Basically, it adds points onto my shooting. Now, good players, not me, good players will keep that counter running and let it build up, and it will give them crazy high numbers and crazy high scores. I'm not that good, and I don't pretend to be that good. And I'm just going to try and do it. There are parts of this where I can do it. Now, one of the interesting facets of that counter is that the way it works, the way it counts up. So, if you're not, you might notice that some of these enemies appearing with like red numbers on them when they appear. You see all those red numbers there that disappeared when I hit them. When an enemy appears on screen, it starts reducing the counter, and so the number is red on it. And just trying, yeah, you can see there's a bit more bullet hell here. And then when it changes to silver, that means it's counting up, and yellow is the bonus you got for killing that enemy. I believe that's how it works anyway. But it has a couple of idiosyncrasies in this game, and one of those idiosyncrasies is that the counter will start counting down, but when you hit an enemy, there's an immediate bonus applied to the counter, and if you time your shooting correctly, the immediate bonus actually ends up adding more to the counter than it would if you were just attacking the enemy normally, which means you can raise the counter. Oh, that didn't go well. You can raise the counter a lot faster, and you can see I got the counter up over 1,000 there. And that was because I was using that particular shooting mode. Now, bosses have a slightly different system. You can see the big counter on the boss. They don't use the stage counter, they use their own boss counter. And some of the mini-bosses use this system too, and this is... I'm better than this. Can do this stage without dying. It's because I got a 12. That's all it is. But yeah, you can see the counter going up. Now, using the shooting method I talked about before, where I'm using timed shots, basically I can raise that counter much higher than it would otherwise be raised. Now, when the game originally launched in the arcade, this wasn't known for a little while, so it took a little while for players to figure out that there was it's basically a scoring exploit in a lot of ways. So let's just try and make it through this pattern. There we go. So yeah, it's basically a scoring exploit. I really didn't expect it to close my lives there. I'm really worried about that. Anyway, yeah, so it's a bit of a scoring exploit, and the arcade players discovered, and what some arcade operators actually did was they would wire a button into the machine to simulate the shot time you needed to pull it off. And it turns out there's actually two optimal shot timings. One for like larger enemies that take a lot of damage, like this guy, and I used the wrong shot timing there, but anyway. And one for the bosses. Now, fortunately, because they rigged the button one way, they didn't rig it both ways. But when the game got ported to PS2, Cave actually added a button that would allow you, in conjunction with the auto-fire buttons, to alter the shot timing automatically, so you didn't have to press the button in the correct rhythm. You could just use the auto-fire, which is, as you probably know, is how I tend to play these games, using the auto-fire. And so I've got those shot timing assigned to triggers, and so I can just... Oh my god. You know what? I'm just going to continue. I don't normally continue when I play a shooter, but for the purposes of video and for the purposes of showing part of the game, I will continue. We'll try and get through this guy. We've got 15,000. I've done really well here, except the fact that I continued and wiped my high score. That's fine. It means we don't get on the high score table, but yeah, I'd just rather show the game for while I'm talking about it. For the moment. That pattern. That pattern's one where you've really got to be ready, and I didn't kill him either. Oh wow, I did really badly then. This is not my best run, just so we're clear. I can play better than this, but the added burden of having to concentrate on the game and talking to you guys, and this is a game that does require a lot of concentration. Bullet hell shooters require skill and concentration. They require you to know what you're doing, and they often require you to know the patterns you're facing. And I have put a fair bit of time into this since it hit PC. I did get this as a review copy, even though this video is going up well after it's come out. So it came out last week on Steam when this video goes live, but I have had it for a while. And yeah, whoa, let's take that guy down. Let's grab that. Grab that, and we'll do the thing for the boss. So yeah, so now I'm using the shooting pattern. So this is without the shooting pattern turned on, just using the regular rapid fire button. Okay, I'll just continue again because I just want to demonstrate this. Right, let's get all my power-ups back. We've got power-ups back, we've got S-power, what? There we go. Okay, right, okay. This is normal rapid fire, so you can see what normal rapid fire looks like there. Okay, right, now, this is actually the holding down the fire button rapid fire, which actually slows my movement down. If you're familiar with the Donpachi games where you have the shot and the laser, this would be the laser equivalent. It pulls the options in closer as well, so that you can tighten them up as a group. Now, this is that same button held down, so the regular fire button held down, but with the shooting pattern. Now, may not look like much of a difference. I've released it, and now I've added it, release, add. Alright, may not look like much of a difference, but you'll notice the counter on the boss goes up a lot faster when I have that button held down, because it times the shots in just such a way as to increase the counter faster than it can degenerate through not shooting. So, and I got a beginner shoot. Oh man, I'm unlocking the achievements today. Except that one of those is one I've already unlocked. But there we go. Anyway. So, that was a disaster of a level, wasn't it? Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to return to the title. Yep. And I will back out of this. And so I hit start and we'll go back. And I'll have a look at some of the other modes. So there's a novice mode, which is a much simplified version of the game for new players who are new to bullet hell shooters, and just players who want a game that's a lot less challenging. That's normal. There's an arrange mode, which we'll go in and have a look at, and there's also a version 1.5 DLC, which apparently has never been released outside of Japan before. And yeah, you can see this hilarious messaging. And this is a parody of the message that used to appear at the start of Cave's arcade games, back during the Atlas, the days when they were being published by Atlas. I'll go W power again. So arrange mode is a bit different to the normal mode. You'll notice the everything looks the same, but you'll notice I have full power, and my counter is already at 300,000, which, as you can imagine, means I'm going to get a really big score very quickly. You can already see it's already shot up quite rapidly there in the right-hand side. And I didn't mean to click that power up. You optimally want to stick with formation. I suppose trace is good because you can do this with it to get them to concentrate on the thing, but you can pull the formation in and it works as well. So the main difference between arrange mode is the scoring plays out somewhat differently. There's no difference between there's no original Maniac and Ultra mode in arrange. There's just the arrange mode. Obviously you have the much higher scoring, which I'm not doing too great at, to be honest. I should have it much higher than it is right now, but I'm not doing that great. So I'm going to try and let that switch. There we go, formation. So now I have formation again. With the power-ups in this game, they actually change if you let them on the screen for a little while. So you can actually change both your shot type, so I can change from W to S to M, and your formation type on the fly in the game. What you select at the start is essentially affects what you get when you die in the back, and what the default power-up will be when it first appears. But you can always change it if you feel that there's a strategic advantage to switching over to one of the later versions. So, a couple of things I should probably talk about a little bit is the PC port of this game, which is pretty competent. Unfortunately, it does have one significant flaw, which is it doesn't run with proper full-screen mode. It doesn't scale up very well, which is possibly why this video is going to look like it's in a weird aspect ratio if I don't figure out how to do aspect ratio correction for it. which I'm going to have a crack at doing, because I am actually playing this quite squashed at the moment. It should be 16 to 9, but the game doesn't seem to run in 16 to 9 properly for me. So, and you can see I just made very light work of that first boss that we were struggling before. So, okay, so that is arrange mode. I'm not going to go any further on it, so I'll just get through this bonus screen, because I want to get to the DLC this game has. Honestly, if you're going to buy this game, just buy the DLC with it. It's already available. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. We'll just return to title, and we'll go back. Oh, you have to explicitly use the start button on the controller, the start button on the Xbox. So version 1.5 is a remix version of Mushihimesama. Cave have this thing where they will do different versions, updates of their games, and usually these updates are very small production runs in terms of how many arcade boards of them exist. There are some Cave games that, as far as anyone knows, have like maybe 1 or 2 boards, like arcade boards in existence. Like Dodonpachi Championship Edition, for example, was given away as a contest prize, and I believe there's known to be like 2 boards of it in the world. And obviously it's never been ported. You can see the version 1.5 here is a different. So version 1.5 was basically remixed arcade version of Mushihimesama. Sometimes with these versions, and I have to apologise straight off, the sound in version 1.5 is a little bit weirder. Yeah, I'm just going to go straight to Maniac for this. And we will, because there's 2 different forms, right? So you have, this is your regular form where you power up, and stuff like that. And this is a form more like a range where you have max power mode. So I'll actually use max power mode, because that's the best way to get across what 1.5 is about. So 1.5 was released in the arcades. I think it may have been DLC. I'm just trying to remember if there was a Japanese 360 version of Mushihimesama. There was a PS2 port, and there was a couple of very early Cave ports to the 360. There was Dodonpachi Daioju. And I think there was a Mushihimesama port, and I think 1.5 may have been DLC for that. The Steam version is absolutely DLC for, and just buy it, like straight up, don't even think about it, just add the DLC to the base price of the game, right? Because 1.5 is actually probably the best way to play this game. So 1.5 has mostly the same. I think that one of the big changes is the shot timing stuff is no longer necessary in 1.5. The way the counter works has been tweaked so that it isn't necessary to do it anymore. But as compensation, you actually get more points for everything. Now, I'm playing with the full power-up version, which means the enemies are a lot more aggressive. There's a lot more bullets coming at me than there would be if I was playing even on like Ultra mode or on Maniac mode. That's the case. So yeah. Anyway, I suppose a couple of things to talk about. The PC port, as I've said, I'm annoyed by the screen mode, but otherwise the port is really nice. Better than the PS2 port, which was noted at the time for being one of the weaker Cave ports. At the time, I believe Espeluda had already been ported, and Dodonpachi Daioju had been ported to the PS2. I have that Dodonpachi Daioju. It's really nice. Man, I've got formation. I want to get formation. Anyway, yeah. So Espeluda's been ported. I don't know why I'm using that. You lose the counter when you die to this point, and you lose. What's the other thing you lose? Oh, that's right. You lose the bonus points you would otherwise get for collectibles. So yeah. So the PC port's pretty competent. It runs at full 60 frames per second as far as I can tell. It does have weight. So I probably need to explain what weight is in a Cave game. You've probably seen a little bit. When there's a lot of action on the screen, the game will actually slow down. And you might think this is slow down, but it's actually deliberately designed to slow the game down when there's a lot of action. All of Cave shooters do this, at least right back to Dodonpachi. I don't know if the original Dodonpachi does it, but all their games do it. It's actually basically deliberately introduced slowdown to sort of help you get through tougher sequences. It's why good Cave players can get through those absolutely terrifyingly screen-filling bullet patterns that you probably seen on YouTube. Well, it's one of the reasons that you can do that, is that the game will actually slow down deliberately when there are that many bullets on the screen. Because it's deliberate, it's predictable. See, it's actually doing it right now. And because it's deliberate, it's also predictable. And so you know where it happens, and it makes things a lot easier. The other thing, of course, to remember about bullet hell shooters, if you're unfamiliar with the genre, is that the sprite that I'm using, my princess, the character's name is Rico, by the way. The bug also has a name, but I forget what it is. Basically, we're playing the princess riding a bug, if you haven't figured that out. That's the main character of the game. No, that was bad. That was terrible. I completely stuffed that up. I went slow when I shouldn't have gone slow. But the other thing you have is a hitbox. There's actually only a very small section of my sprite, and you can probably see I'm allowing some of these bullets to cover over, so I'm going to have them now. But you've probably noticed, if you've been paying attention to my sprite, that a lot of the time bullets are passed over me without killing me. That's because my hitbox is much, much smaller than my sprite. It's basically a very small area at the center of the sprite. Bullets also have hitboxes, so the actual space a bullet takes up on the screen, I got kicked in, is less than it would actually be. In this mode, if you can actually take one hit without dying, what happens is you throw away all your bombs at the same time. So I lost all my bombs. It's actually a trait of a lot of cave games in their range modes and various other things, where you have an auto bomb function where when you get hit, you can auto bomb. And it's cool. I like it. It's good fun. And yeah. Overall, as a game, how do I feel about Mushihimesama? We'll talk about the PC port quality and all that, but I suppose the other important thing is, where does this rank in sort of the pantheon of cave shooters? Let's get that problem. That's basically getting an extra life. The way everything works here. So where do I think this ranks in the pantheon of cave shooters? It's one of my favorites, actually. Yeah, straight up. This is one of the best cave shooters. I think it was the perfect choice, actually, for being the first cave game to port to Steam. The plan apparently is to port most of their titles to Steam. I'm not sure if they're going to port everything, because it'd be nice if they did, because there's a few titles that have never been ported outside of the arcade. Oh, that was bad. But we're probably going to get to stage 3, if I can get through that pattern. And this pattern, we're going to get through that pattern. But yeah, this is going to be, apparently if this is successful at least, it's going to be the first in a long line of cave ports to PC. So I'm really hoping it happens, because I would love to have these games on PC, because it's just trying to play them on console and stuff. And while I do have a fair whack of the console ports, particularly on the PS2 and the 360, it'd just be nice to have them all available on PC. Mushihimesama, I think, is the perfect game. It's one of Cave's more accessible titles. It's not quite as brutally challenging as the non-Apache games, and it doesn't have the somewhat more esoteric mechanics of either Death Smiles or Espeluna. And it's a lot more fun than Akai Katana, which is probably my least favourite Cave game, strangely enough. And that's no slight on Akai Katana. Like, Cave actually did make a really good horizontally scrolling shooter back in the day. It was called Pro Gear. And Akai Katana doesn't hold the candle to Pro Gear, I don't reckon. But that's just my personal opinion. Pro Gear instantly actually runs on Capcom's CPS2 arcade hardware, so that's another hardware thing that Cave has done. But yeah, so Mushihimesama, I think, is one of Cave's best games. It's got a lot of personality, a lot of character, and sort of before that weird period Cave went into where everything was just full of these sort of gothic leader girls. You know what? I am not going to continue. We're going to show some other stuff. And besides, I want to rank a high score here, finally, for this video. Yeah, I genuinely think Mushihimesama is one of their best games. The scoring system is not difficult to understand. It looks complicated, but it's actually one of their simpler ones. Like, it was much easier for me to explain the scoring system in this game. Oh, I didn't mention to say replay. No. Yes, it's definitely one of their less complicated games. One final thing I might do while we're here is I'll go back to normal mode, and I will show you the thing I didn't show you at the start of the video. I'll show you ultra mode. Ultra mode is basically if you're looking for a challenge in this game. And you're probably sitting there thinking, but Maniac mode looked pretty hard. I can't get past the first stage. This is how hard Ultra Mode is. Cave actually warned you about it. Battle sheer despair. We're going to try it. Okay, I've never actually done Ultra Mode on the PC version before, apparently. I have tried it on the PS4. But this mode is completely freaking nuts. Now, one other thing to note with this isn't the game that has that infamous YouTube video, the hardest video game boss ever. That is the sequel, Mushihimesama Futari, which I'm really hoping... I probably actually like this game more than I like the sequel, actually, now that I think about it. Futari's good, though. That's not to say... I mean, Cave... There isn't really a genuinely dud Cave game. Maybe Uo Poco, but... as you can see, Maniac Mode gets pretty... sorry, not Maniac Mode. Ultra Mode gets pretty freaking hard. I'm just going to play for survival. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to avoid crap out of it. This is insane. Yeah, so... oh, yeah, we died. We're not going to get far. But yeah, this is harder. This is if you want this game to be as hard as, say, Second Loop Dodonpachi Daioju or something like that. Because unlike the Dodonpachi games, this game does not, as far as I'm aware, have a second loop. Oh, well, we died already. That's how hard the game is. I'm going to continue just to push more forward into the game, but you can see this game is not messing around. Yeah, I actually could get through that pattern if I was a bit smarter. And if I wasn't having to concentrate on talking all the time. This is horrible. You might notice, I've been talking about continuing stuff with this game. If you're unfamiliar with shooters, in general, continuing in a shooter is not looked upon as being, skilled. Oh boy! Oh boy, that pattern. Okay, I've never actually got this far, because normally I don't continue when I play these games. So I don't think I've ever actually gotten up to the first boss in Ultra Mode. You can understand why, right? Okay, let's try that. There we go. So that was actually a good example of the hitbox. You can see those bullets passing over my sprite, and you see, I was going to say you can see it there, but you can't really. The scoring system in Ultra is the same as it is in Maniac, but I think you can get higher scores for various reasons. Because there's more bullets, so you get more bullet break generals and stuff. So this pattern is going to be hard, because it's already a hard one in Maniac, this pattern. So this... Oh, crap! Wow. Okay. Let's see if we can get through the pattern. Oh, it's that. Oh, wow. Okay, we can get through that pattern. We'll consider. Oh, jeez, I was that close. I was so close. That's it. Oh, no eggs. Oh, the boss didn't leave any eggs. Oh well. I can't do I can't do Ultra Mode. Sorry, I just cannot. Look, yeah, this is a fantastic bullet hell shooter, especially if you're looking to get into bullet hell. It's probably one of Cave's most accessible games. It's certainly one of their most fun games. It has great music. It looks $1,000,000. Probably not quite as visually detailed as Cave got with their later games. Like the sequel looks even better than this, and the later Dodonpachi games look fantastic as well. But that's no slight on this game. This game, for its time, looks fantastic. Holds up really well today. Still one of the best bullet hell shooters ever made. But I can say that about every Cave game, I suppose. I personally probably prefer the Dodonpachi games. I'm not even gonna bother. I'm done. That's it. No, not happening. I probably prefer... I should show Novice Mode. Let's have a look at Novice Mode before we finish up. So I'll just... no, I don't want to save replay data. I didn't even get that score. Oh, no, I want to hit that button. So we'll just go into Novice Mode just quickly, just to give us a look at. I was going to avoid it, but this video's gone on for a long time already. So we'll just quickly do some Novice Mode stuff. And hit start. And we'll do Maniac. And we'll do W power. And I'm actually not as good at Novice Mode as I am at the normal game, because the bullet patterns are slightly different in Novice Mode, and I'm not used to them. And this is a game where learning the bullet patterns is really the key to victory. Knowing what's coming, as with any shooter, memorization is like 90% of success in any kind of shooter, and this Cave shooters are especially like that. knowing where the bullet's coming from, how to avoid them, what to do, what position on the screen you need to be in too. You probably notice that I tend to habitually sort of sit very much at the bottom of the screen, which is actually a bad habit that I need to break when I play these games, because sitting at the bottom of the screen means you have nowhere to go when the bullets come at you. And sometimes you actually want to go back. You want to actually back up when the bullet's coming around, because you want to do things like that kind of sweep that I'm just doing there and stuff like that. You want to lead bullets around the screen and all that kind of stuff. Like, I understand the principles well enough, I'm just terrible at the execution. So, that's my excuse not sticking to it. Wow, I just lost a huge amount of count there. That was annoying. Well, lose that much count. But there we go. But yeah, as you can see, this is Maniac mode on Novice, and you see it's just vastly simpler compared to normal or 1.5 Maniac mode. So yeah, but that doesn't mean it's any less fun. And like I say, if you want a version of this game where you feel like you can have you can be successful without like brutalizing you or continuing constantly, then yeah. I think I mentioned before about continues. I don't think I finished what I was going to say too. You might notice I don't continue a lot. I've never actually beaten this game because I don't credit feed. Credit feeding is what you do when you just continue on as far as you can, or as far as you want to play your way through the game. That's not how you should be playing this game. You should play this game by practicing it, dying, getting game overs, and starting again, and just getting further and further and challenging yourself. Playing and credit feeding is a good way to practice the game, and you'll start off probably doing it, and then you can even just credit feed every time you play, I suppose, if you really want it, even if you're insane. But what you end up doing, if you try to survive, if you place that limitation on you, it'll make you want to get further a lot more than just seeing the game. And sure, using credit feeds will allow you to practice stuff later on, and that's kind of how like good players do it. But in general, yeah, for a high score run, and the game won't even let you register a high score that if you continue. So you need to game over to get on high scores tables. So yeah, that's how that works. Other features this game has that I should probably talk about. The PC version does have replay saves. You probably saw me accidentally try and save a replay just before, which I didn't really want to do because it wasn't very interesting replay. The PC version does have replay saves. And, more importantly, it has leaderboards with downloadable replays. So you can look at the top players in the world, and you can download their replays, and see what they're doing, and learn from them. It's a feature that a lot of shooters on PC are getting. Ikaruga on PC also does it as well, and that's a game I want to beat up, by the way. It also does it. I'm hoping all the Cave games do it. All the Cave Xbox 360 ports have it as well, which is great. Because it's a really good way to learn how other players play the game and see how top players get good scores on these games. You can download like a replay of the #1 score and see how the player did it. Which is really good because games like this are games that, well, that was terrible. Games like this are games that require absolute skill to get better at. I'm so bad. I've been playing these games for years and I haven't gained any skill at them, but I'm probably a lot better at them now than I used to be, and I actually find Caves games, these games, a lot easier to play than, say, a game like Ikaruga. I'm actually much better at this game than I am at Ikaruga. I'm much better at Dot and Patch than I am at this game, weirdly enough. But most of that's just due to the time I put into it and the fact that I've learned those patterns. And each Cave game tends to have subtly different aspects. Like the bullet pattern, you might think, oh yeah, it's just, screenfuls of bullets, but there are huge differences between the way every Cave game plays, and it's a testament to the creativity and the capability of the company that they've been able to do that for so long. And I know they don't really make shooters anymore, unfortunately. They do basically mobile ports and whatever. Actually, their mobile ports of their shooters are worth getting if you have an iPhone. I think they're available on Android. They are well worth checking out. They did some really good stuff with their mobile ports. We're going to see if we survive this boss, and then we're going to call it a video. If I game over here, then that's going to be the end of the video. So, which is a shame, because I would have loved to have shown you Stage 3. Stage 3 is great, but I just can't bring myself to credit feed into it. No, we're done. Okay, that was that. I got, hopefully, a high score. We'll see how we go with that. Just sit through the game over screen, and yeah, so we did get a high score. Not a very good one, but whatever. I got on the high score list. So yeah, that's Mushihimesama. It is well worth picking up on Steam right now. I believe it's on special at the moment for launch. I can't remember the exact price. I think it's like 15 US or something. I can't remember exactly, but whatever it is, it's worth getting. And it's a really good introduction if you're looking for a way to get into both Caves games and more specifically Bullet Hell in general. This is very much a good game to pick up because it's I wouldn't say it's an easy game specifically, but it has a lot of modes that will allow you to ease into the concepts behind cave games and the theories behind them and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth having a look at. I'm going to back out of novice mode. We'll go back to the main screen. It's definitely worth having a look at, and I highly, highly recommend it. So that's Mushihimesama. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.